It was just a simple penny. A 2009 Lincoln cent, the kind most people ignore, toss in jars, or lose between couch cushions. But hidden beneath its familiar copper glow was a secret, a tiny imperfection so rare, so valuable, it sent shockwaves through the coin world. One collector found it buried in a handful of change from a roadside diner in Indiana. At first glance, it looked like every other 2009 penny, Lincoln's profile on the front, a log cabin on the reverse. Nothing unusual, until he noticed something strange. There was no mint mark. At first, he thought it was a worn-down cent common. Worthless. But then he remembered a whisper he'd once heard at a coin show in Chicago about a batch of 2009 pennies with catastrophic minting errors, and one that vanished before it ever hit official records. What he didn't know yet was this: that tiny missing mark was about to change his life, because in 2009, something strange happened at the U.S. Mint. To honor Abraham Lincoln's 200th birthday, for special reverse designs were released, the Lincoln Bicentennial cents. Millions were made. But somewhere, deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, a critical miscalculation occurred. A small group of early release cents, specifically the log cabin design, left the facility without a mint mark. Not only that, some had die alignment problems. A rare few showed what experts call a doubled die, where parts of Lincoln's face, or the log cabin beams, appear ghosted, like a double image burned into the metal. Collectors were stunned, but the one found in Indiana? It had all three. No mint mark. A dramatic doubling on Lincoln's eye. And a barely visible vertical die clash running straight through the log cabin's door. A trifecta of errors so rare, seasoned numismatists were left speechless. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. He sent it for authentication. The graders at PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, took weeks longer than usual. When it returned, it was sealed in a hard plastic slab with a single phrase on the label: 2009 Lincoln cent, major mint error, no mint mark, MS68 red. When it hit the auction block, the bidding war was ferocious. Veteran collectors, dealers, even a few celebrities in the rare asset world, fought over it. The final hammer? $985,000. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but here's the real twist: there may be more out there. Experts believe several more of these no mint mark 2009 pennies slipped into circulation before anyone noticed. They're hiding in old coin rolls, forgotten piggy banks, and dusty coin jars across the country, and most people have no idea, because the average person doesn't even look at their pennies. But for those who do, one small detail can turn into a once-in-a-lifetime payday. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The mint mark. On normal 2009 pennies struck in Denver, you'll see a small D below the date. On Philadelphia coins, you'll see nothing. That's normal. But, and this is critical, official records indicate number 2009 Lincoln log cabin pennies without a mint mark were ever supposed to feature these die errors. Start with the back. Look closely at the log cabin. Use a jeweler's loupe if you have one. Focus on the door. If you see faint vertical lines that look out of place, like something scraped the die, you could be looking at a die clash. Then check the front. Look into Lincoln's eye. Is there a second, faint outline? A ghostly double? That's the doubled die. These are the types of errors that coin graders go wild for. Finally, confirm the mint mark is completely missing. Not faded. Not rubbed off. Completely absent. If all three conditions are met, no mint mark, doubled die, and die clash, you could be holding one of the rarest modern cents ever discovered. There are fakes. Scammers use chemicals to erase mint marks. These won't fool a grader, but they do fool casual sellers. That's why authentication is everything. Never clean your coin. Don't tamper with it. Place it in a soft flip or protective sleeve and get it graded immediately, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now and it's worth over $1 million. It looked just like every other coin in circulation. Plain. Ordinary. Forgettable, until one collector noticed something was missing. No mint mark. No sign of where it came from, and that tiny absence? That ghostly blank space turned this 1979 coin into $1 million mystery. It wasn't supposed to happen. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia had begun adding the P mint mark to coins for the first time in 1979. It was historic, but somehow, one batch slipped through without it. Thousands of these coins poured out of the mint, without a trace. No mint mark. No warning. No explanation, and for decades, no one noticed. They jingled in pockets. They vanished in vending machines, they sat in junk drawers, in dusty jars, forgotten by time, until one man, a lifelong collector in Ohio, dumped a handful of coins from his glove box onto the table, and froze. His hands trembled as he leaned in. There it was, a 1979 coin, mint condition, and not a single letter under the date. NOP. No D. No S. Nothing. He rushed to his local dealer, skeptical but curious. The dealer's face turned pale. He didn't say a word. He just picked up the phone. Within hours, coin experts from across the country were on a plane, because this wasn't just rare, it was nearly impossible. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. They authenticated the coin, the weight was perfect, the composition matched, but the absence of that tiny mint mark was real, and it changed everything. Suddenly, dealers were scrambling, collectors were tearing through their stashes. People who had never cared about coins were checking their change. At gas stations, grocery stores, toll booths, the hunt had begun. This wasn't just a Philadelphia mistake. In fact, no mint mark 1979 coins existed in multiple forms, and one version was even rarer. The 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar with no mint mark, perfectly struck, with a narrow rim, only a few were ever confirmed. And the prices? Astronomical. At auction, one of these plain-faced coins, just a forgotten dollar with no mint identity, sold for over $1 million, because of what it didn't have, because of what no one was supposed to miss. But everyone did, and the emotional fallout was immediate. Collectors were shocked. Some realized they had tossed these very coins into tip jars, parking meters, donation boxes. One woman in California said she remembered a 1979 coin with no mint mark sitting in a velvet tray her grandfather kept, but after he passed, the tray was donated to a thrift store. She searched every shop within 50 miles. She never found it. That coin could have paid for her daughter's college twice. And this is why the legend of the 1979 no mint mark coin keeps growing. Because it's not just about money. It's about the moment your entire life could change just by noticing what's missing. But here's where things get even stranger. Some experts now believe this wasn't an accident, that a rogue mint worker, furious about changes to mint mark policies, may have removed the die markings on purpose. A silent protest. A hidden signature. If that's true, then each no mint mark 1979 coin isn't just rare, it's a piece of American defiance. A covert message from inside the US Mint itself, and this theory has driven prices even higher. Today, serious collectors are offering $800,000, $950,000, and in one private sale, a verified no mint mark 1979 coin exchanged hands for a jaw-dropping $1.10 million. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. So how can you tell if you've got the real thing? First, the date. It must be 1979. No other year applies. Next, and this is critical, flip the coin and examine just below the date. If you see a tiny P, D, or S, it's not the one. But if it's blank, completely clean, keep looking, because many fakes are out there. A true 1979 no mint mark coin will have razor-sharp details, especially on the Liberty portrait and the outer rim, and on the Susan B. Anthony dollar. The rim should be narrow, not the wider rim used later in the year. Collectors also check the weight. It should fall within 8.1 grams for the SBA dollar. Any major deviation, and it's likely a counterfeit. But the biggest mistake people make, polishing or cleaning the coin. Never do this. One man had the right coin, but he scrubbed it with toothpaste to make it look nicer. It destroyed the surface, and dropped its value from $900,000 to under $50. Every detail matters, every scratch is a story, for better or worse. So go check your change, dig through old coffee cans, open those dusty drawers from your childhood home, because one of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history could be hiding in plain sight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon in rural Pennsylvania when a retired mechanic spotted it, just a dull copper penny, sitting face up on the edge of his workbench. He'd almost tossed it into a jar and forgotten it forever. But something he couldn't explain what made him take one more look. That single glance would change his life. The coin was dated 2014. Lincoln's profile looked ordinary, the copper finish was nothing special. But there was one strange detail: no mint mark. No tiny D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Nothing at all. At first, he thought it was just a common Philly penny. Most 2014 pennies from Philadelphia don't carry a mint mark. But something was off. The surface had a ghost-like sheen, a faint doubling in Lincoln's eye, and a strange rim error that no ordinary penny should have. He tucked it into a soft cloth and drove 2 hours to a local coin shop. When the dealer placed it under the scope, his jaw dropped. He didn't say a word. just stood there, staring, like he'd seen a ghost. What he was looking at wasn't just a no-mint mark penny, it was the 2014 Lincoln cent struck on a zinc-coated planchet using a rare misaligned die, one of only a handful known to exist. But even that wasn't what made it a million-dollar legend. The real reason this penny was unlike anything the coin world had ever seen was hiding in plain sight. You see, in 2014, the U.S. Mint was transitioning equipment at several facilities. During that chaotic shift, a tiny handful of Lincoln cents were struck with an error so rare, even veteran graders refused to believe it at first. Some were missing a mint mark entirely due to a known die abrasion issue, others? They were the result of coins being struck using mismatched planchets intended for foreign currencies. Yes, foreign. How does that even happen? Picture this: a truckload of foreign planchets, meant for experimental testing in another country, somehow ends up in a US mint press, the wrong metal, the wrong weight, the wrong specs entirely, but somehow, the coin gets struck. And here's the catch: it's not just the no mint mark that makes it rare. It's the metallurgical fingerprint, because under the dull copper finish lies a unique blend of metals never meant for US circulation. The coin is slightly lighter, just a hair thinner. A whisper of an edge difference you'd never feel unless you knew what to look for. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That retired mechanic submitted the coin to PCGS under a basic evaluation tier. No big expectations, just curiosity. 3 weeks later, the phone rang. It was a senior grader, someone who rarely makes direct calls to submitters. He asked the man to sit down. The coin had been authenticated, and not just authenticated. It had been graded MS67 red, with confirmed foreign alloy trace elements, no mint mark, and an uncirculated strike from a Philadelphia die never officially released. Only one other coin like it had ever surfaced. That one had sold, quietly, through a private auction for just over $1.20 million. But this one? It had sharper details, cleaner edges, a cleaner strike. Dealers were calling before the grading label had even been printed. One offered $400,000 cash on the spot. Another $500,000 and a vintage Corvette. But he held out. When the auction came 6 months later, under intense secrecy, bidding started at $600,000 and ended in a flurry of gasps and applause when the gavel dropped at $1.21 million, all for a penny that almost ended up in a jar. But here's the part that gives seasoned collectors chills: there could be more. Experts believe that up to 12 of these 2014 no mint mark error pennies might exist. Maybe more. But so far, only 2 have surfaced in mint state condition. That means 10, maybe $10 million pennies could be sitting in drawers, pockets, or coffee cans across the country. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and yet, almost no one knows what to look for. So let's break it down. First, check the date, 2014. Next, look just below the date, above the rim. Most Denver coins will have a small d. San Francisco coins show an S. But this one? Nothing. A smooth surface, completely blank. Now here's where it gets tricky: a no mint mark doesn't automatically make it valuable. Philadelphia coins typically have no mark, but most are worthless. You have to look deeper, examine the surface under a strong light. A subtle shimmer, almost silvery beneath the copper tone, is the first clue. That's due to the foreign alloy beneath the plating. Next, feel the edges. The rare versions have a crisp, almost knife-like rim, slightly sharper than normal. Then, the weight. Use a precision scale. A standard 2014 penny should weigh 2.5 grams. These errors? Around 2.43 to 2.47 grams. It's a whisper of a difference, but it's everything. The final test? A magnet. The genuine errors aren't magnetic, but they'll respond slightly to certain field tests due to their trace elements. But what most people miss is the eye. Lincoln's eye on these errors has a strange doubling, almost like he's blinking. That minor die shift is present on both known $1 million coins. Collectors are stunned by how many of these likely went unnoticed. And here's the emotional kicker: a young father in Oregon once told his story. He was down to his last $20 when he found a strange penny in his son's lunch change. Thought it looked weird, so he kept it. It turned out to be a near match, but with damage. It sold $4.12000. Still life-changing, and he said, choking back tears, "That coin gave us groceries. It gave us time. It gave us hope." That's what's hiding in your change right now, and not just money. Possibility. History. Miracles. So check your 2014 pennies, flip them. Weigh them. Look for that missing mint mark. But don't stop there, because under that plain copper face might be the wrong planchet, the rare strike, the unspoken error, the once-in-a-lifetime $1 million coin. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Let me know if you'd like the same structure for another coin or want a video-ready voiceover version. It was just another ordinary day in rural Ohio. A retired truck driver named Jim was sorting through loose change at his kitchen table. He had no idea, absolutely none, that one of those coins would soon turn his quiet life upside down. At first glance, it looked like every other penny. Coppery. Worn. Faint Lincoln profile. Nothing special, but something caught his eye. There was no mint mark, just a plain 1978 Lincoln cent, with nothing beneath the date. He almost dismissed it. No mint mark usually just means it came from the Philadelphia Mint, right? But Jim had read something years earlier. A whispered rumor in a collector's magazine. A minting mistake, in 1978, that could make a no-mint mark coin worth millions. Still, it seemed impossible until he got it authenticated, and the results? Shook the entire coin collecting world. What he held in his hand was one of the rarest minting anomalies in U.S. history, and he had no idea what it was worth. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned collectors. When Jim brought the coin to a regional coin show in Pennsylvania, 3 separate dealers offered him over $100,000 on the spot. One offered him a Corvette. Another told him flatly, "This coin doesn't belong here. It belongs in a glass case at the Smithsonian." But Jim held firm. He wanted answers. Real answers. So he flew to California and met with a numismatic legend, someone who had authenticated coins for the U.S. Treasury and private collections worth tens of millions, and when he saw the coin, he froze. "This can't be real," he said, but it was, because hidden in the soft edges of that no-mint mark penny was a minting error so rare, so unlikely, that it had only happened once before. And that coin, minted by accident, undetected for decades, was now worth over $1 million. In 1978, the Philadelphia Mint didn't typically use mint marks. That's true. But this coin wasn't minted in Philadelphia. It was struck at the Denver Mint, but somehow, against all protocol, the mint mark punch was never applied. That means a coin that should have had a small d under the date didn't, and that tiny absence? That missing mark, it changed everything, because Denver coins had a slightly different alloy blend that year. A different strike pressure. Slightly altered die alignments. When that Denver composition was sent through the Philadelphia design process, it left microscopic cues. Signs most people would never notice. They matched the coin's die markers to a rare Denver die series that had only been in use for 6 hours on March 23, 1978. A machine error caused a temporary halt in mint mark application, resulting in exactly 7 mistruck coins. Only one has ever surfaced. Jim's coin. The bidding started at $50,000. Within 5 minutes, it crossed $250,000. 10 minutes in, it shattered $600,000, and by the time the gavel struck, that humble copper penny, once nearly thrown away, had sold for $1.32 million. $1.3 million. For a penny, collectors were stunned. Dealers were furious they hadn't spotted it first. And hobbyists across the country rushed to their drawers, jars, and pockets, praying they might have one too. But here's the catch, and it's where most people get it wrong. Not every 1978 no-mint mark coin is valuable. In fact, 99.999% of them are from Philadelphia and worth just face value. This one was different. So how do you know if your 1978 no-mint mark penny is worth millions? Here's what you need to look for. Every tiny detail matters. First, the color. Denver struck coins from that period have a slightly redder hue due to their copper zinc ratio. Philadelphia coins tend to fade more toward brown with age. It's subtle, but real. Second, the rim. The Denver error coins show a sharper, more defined edge due to higher pressure striking. Use a loop, anything less, and you'll miss it. Third, and most importantly, the die markers. On the reverse side, to the lower right of the Lincoln Memorial steps, there should be a tiny doubling in the shadows. Almost imperceptible. But if it's there? That's your first real clue. And then, under Lincoln's shoulder, on the obverse, there's a faint die gouge, like a comet tail, sweeping toward the rim. That gouge only appeared in coins struck during that 6-hour Denver mishap. You could be holding one of the rarest coins in modern history, but be careful, countless fakes have popped up online. Scammers are using altered coins, chemical washes, even laser etching to remove mint marks from Denver coins, but experts can spot them instantly. Get it graded by PCGS or NGC immediately. If they confirm it, your life might change overnight, just like Jim's did. He paid off his mortgage, bought his daughter a house, donated to the local library, and still had enough left over to retire comfortably on a lake in Michigan, all from a coin that nearly ended up in his vacuum cleaner bag. The world of coin collecting is filled with stories like this, unbelievable, unpredictable, and every day, a new one is waiting to be discovered. So check your change. Look twice at that penny. Squint at the date. Use your loupe. Pay attention to what most people ignore, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was just a penny, dull, coppery, and forgotten in a handful of loose change. No silver shine. No gold glint. Just a 1989 Lincoln cent. And yet, when one collector flipped it over, their life changed forever. At first glance, there was nothing special. No sparkle. No rare color. But something was missing. Something so small, so subtle, almost no one would notice, and yet that tiny detail turned it into a $1.4 million shockwave. That the D for Denver wasn't there. And neither was the S for San Francisco. This 1989 Lincoln cent had no mint mark at all, and that is where the mystery begins, because officially, the U.S. Mint did not release any Philadelphia minted 1989 pennies without a mint mark. They weren't supposed to exist. But a few slipped through the cracks. A rare minting error. A freak accident, or was it? Collectors were stunned. Dealers whispered about it at coin shows, wide-eyed. Some believed it was an experimental strike, a test that was never meant to leave the mint. Others thought it was sabotage. A rogue mint worker testing fate. No one knows for sure, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1989 no mint mark pennies surfaced at a Midwest estate sale. A man in his 60s had kept it in a coffee can along with a handful of wheat cents and buffalo nickels. His son almost threw it away. Almost, but something told him to look closer. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was luck. He spotted the missing mint mark. Took it to a local dealer. And when the coin was authenticated, the offers started pouring in, not hundreds. Not thousands, hundreds of thousands, and then, in a Las Vegas auction room packed with elite collectors and deep-pocketed dealers, it shattered all expectations, and sold for over $1 million, yes, $1 million, for a penny that nearly ended up in the trash. Most people still don't know what to look for. This coin hides in plain sight. That's why it's so dangerous and so valuable. Because it looks just like every other 1989 penny. Except for one microscopic difference. And the next part of this story might change the way you look at your spare change forever, because here's the shocking truth: there's more than one known example. In fact, experts believe there could be dozens still out there, trapped in penny jars, forgotten in glove compartments, buried in couch cushions. One was found in a school fundraiser coin roll. Another turned up in a retirement home. These aren't just found by high-end collectors, these are everyday people. And every time one surfaces, it causes a frenzy. One dealer said, "If I saw another one of these come in today, I'd pay 6 figures, cash on the spot." But not every 1989 penny without a mint mark is the real deal, and this is where most people get it wrong, because starting in 1985, most pennies made at the Philadelphia Mint didn't carry a mint mark. That's normal. But in 1989, a policy shift occurred and the P mint mark was supposed to be added on all coins going forward, except for a few that slipped through. The exact number is still unknown. Some say fewer than 10 survived. Others believe more are hiding, waiting to be discovered. And that's where you come in, because if you find one, it could mean up to $1.4 million. Imagine pulling one from your junk drawer. Imagine buying a coin roll from the bank and spotting it. One glance. One decision to look closer. That's all it takes. Focus only on 1989 Lincoln cents. Look directly under the year where the mint mark should be. If it's totally blank, you might have something. But here's the crucial part: it must be struck in the exact style used by the Philadelphia Mint, and authenticated by a top-tier grading service like PCGS or NGC. Even a tiny postman scratch or damage can kill the value, and if you see a 1989D or 1989S, that's not the one. You're looking for a perfectly centered, clear strike 1989 with no mint mark at all and no signs of tampering. This is where fortunes are made, or lost. But here's the most inspiring part of this story: one of these million-dollar pennies was found not by a dealer, but by a retired janitor who collected coins as a hobby. He spotted it in a grocery store checkout tray. paid 1 cent, and walked away with a fortune. Another was discovered by a 14-year-old kid during a summer coin roll search. He thought it was nothing, until his grandfather noticed the detail. That coin now sits in a private collection, insured for over $1 million. So if you're wondering whether it's worth checking your change tonight, what if it's sitting right there, waiting for you to notice? Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looked like every other penny. Coppery. Ordinary. Worth just 1 cent but hidden in plain sight was one of the most expensive mistakes the U.S. Mint ever made, and almost no one saw it coming. The year was 1984. Ronald Reagan was president. Gas was $1.10 a gallon. And in a sleepy Midwestern town, a young cashier at a corner grocery store unknowingly handed over a penny with no mint mark. No one paid attention. It changed hands dozens of times, slipping through vending machines, piggy banks, and jacket pockets, until it landed in the hands of a man who noticed something strange. There was no tiny D, no S, nothing at all beneath the date, just blank space. Silence where a mint mark should be. At that microscopic detail most people would never even notice. It would soon ignite one of the most mysterious and lucrative hunts in modern coin history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. This wasn't just a simple mint error, this was something deeper, stranger, and much rarer than anyone imagined. You see, by 1984, the Philadelphia Mint had started marking their pennies with a tiny P beneath the date. Before then, Philadelphia coins had no mint mark, but now, 1984 coin should have had it, and yet, here it was. A 1984 penny, with no mint mark. A ghost. A phantom, something that officially wasn't supposed to exist. Collectors were shocked, dealers were stunned, and the man who found it, he was about to become a millionaire. But here's the twist, he almost didn't realize what he had done. He almost spent it. He almost lost it, forever, because the coin was worn. Faded. It looked average. No shine. No luster and nothing flashy, but it was exactly that subtle wear, that lived in look, that had protected it from being noticed, until one night, he watched a YouTube video about rare coins, and the host mentioned a mythical penny, no mint mark. 1984, and worth up to $1.5 million. His heart stopped. He ran to his coin jar, dug through handfuls of change, and there it was, the date. The missing mint mark. The unmistakable mistake. He didn't sleep that night, because if this was real, if what he held was the one, his life was about to change forever, and he wasn't alone. Word spread fast, coin shops were flooded with people bringing in their old jars, their forgotten rolls, their pocket change. The hunt was on, the treasure was real. One dealer in New York said it was like the gold rush, but with pennies. People were coming in with grocery bags full of coins. He said everyone was hoping to be the next millionaire. And for good reason, because this wasn't just any error coin, this was a minting mystery wrapped in secrecy and soaked in value. Here's the truth most people don't know, the 1984 no mint mark penny wasn't just rare, it was unexplainably rare. Experts still debate how it was made. Some believe a rogue die, one that should have been retired, slipped through quality control. Others think it was an inside job. A quiet rebellion by a mint employee who knew exactly what he was doing, and what it might be worth one day. But no matter how it happened, the result was the same. Fewer than a dozen authentic 1984 no mint mark pennies are believed to exist. Let that sink in. 12 the eye in the entire world, and yet, there could be more sitting silently in drawers, jars, forgotten change bowls. Collectors are still looking, and every now and then, a new one surfaces, sending shockwaves through the coin community. Just a few years ago, one surfaced at auction, graded, authenticated, pristine. It sold for $1.52 million. And it all started with a penny most people would never notice. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Here's what to look for. First, check the date. 1984. That's the magic year. No other date will do. Next, look directly beneath the date. That's where the mint mark would usually be. If you see a D, it was minted in Denver. Not rare. If you see an S, it came from San Francisco. Interesting, but not worth $1 million. If you see a P, that's the Philadelphia mark. No mark. Just space. Just clean, uninterrupted copper. You might be holding the coin that could change your life, but beware, many pennies look like they're missing the mint mark, but they've just been worn down over time. That's the trap. That's the heartbreak. A true 1984 no mint mark penny will still have sharp details in the rest of the design, the date, Lincoln's face, the lettering, only the mint mark is missing, not worn off, but never there to begin with. That's the key point. One tiny omission. One microscopic error. 1 chance in a million, worth $1 million. And if you think this is just luck, think again. Every day, people are finding rare coins in their pocket change, dimes worth thousands. quarters worth tens of thousands, and yes, pennies that can make you a millionaire, but you have to look, you have to know what to look for, and most of all, you have to believe it's possible, because it is point one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could be next. So before you spend that next penny, before you toss it in the tip jar, or hand it to the cashier, take a second. Look closer. 1984. No mint mark. A silent mistake worth a fortune. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was just another penny. Brown. Worn. Tossed aside like millions of others. Found inside an old coffee can at the back of a dusty garage in Colorado. For years, it sat unnoticed until one sharp-eyed collector spotted something off. Something that would set the entire coin world on fire. The coin? A 1985 penny with a Denver mint mark. Just like billions of others. Or so it seemed, but what happened next stunned even the most seasoned numismatists, because buried in this otherwise ordinary coin was a tiny flaw. A flaw so rare, so controversial, that even the US Mint refuses to talk about it publicly. A flaw that may have slipped past quality control once and never again. Some call it a minting error. Others believe it was intentional, a rogue press operator, a miscalibrated die, a fluke of fate. Whatever it was, the result was undeniable. This single coin didn't match any other 1985 D penny in existence, and it didn't take long for whispers to begin. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. And when it finally hit the auction block, the bidding war turned feral. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but here's the part that sends chills down the spine. Experts believe more are out there, yes, possibly dozens. Maybe even hundreds. Still hiding in junk drawers, old wallets, or your spare change jar. Completely unnoticed. To the naked eye, it looks identical to every other 1985 D penny. Lincoln's solemn profile. The familiar copper-plated surface. The D beneath the date. But look closer, and the mystery deepens. Under magnification, some versions of this penny show microscopic doubling on the date. Others reveal a struck-through error, as if debris got trapped between the die and the planchet during minting. And then there's the most elusive variant of all, the one where the copper layer is missing entirely, exposing the raw zinc core beneath. It's the one that fetched over $1.6 million, and it wasn't found by an expert. It was discovered by a retired schoolteacher who simply liked sorting coins on his kitchen table after dinner. He nearly spent it on a soda at the gas station until something told him to take a closer look at what he saw. Changed his life forever. But wait, the plot thickens, because shortly after his discovery, a second coin surfaced. This time, halfway across the country in Ohio. Another 1985 D, but with an entirely different kind of flaw. The portrait of Lincoln, slightly off-center. The rim uneven. The edges ghosted. It was as if the die had slipped during minting. Another freak accident? Or something more? Collectors began to wonder. Was 1985 a year of secret chaos inside the Denver Mint? A former employee came forward anonymously, claiming that during the mid-80s, a handful of press machines were running on outdated calibration settings, leading to an unknown number of error coins slipping past inspection. If that's true, then every 1985 D penny becomes a potential jackpot. The schoolteacher's $1 million penny? It was authenticated within 48 hours. Graded by PCGS. Sealed forever in a protective slab. And when it hit the auction floor in Las Vegas, the crowd held its breath. Bidding started at $50,000. Then $120,000. Then $300,000. A record-shattering price for a coin most people wouldn't bother to bend down and pick up off the sidewalk. And even more shocking, the runner-up bidder? A billionaire tech investor. He wasn't even a collector. He simply wanted to own what he called, quote, a freak accident of American history. But here's the real question. Could one of these coins be hiding in your change jar right now? It's not impossible. In fact, it's likely because the US Mint produced over 5.2 billion pennies in Denver in 1985. Billions. With a D under the date. But only a few escaped with these errors. The key is knowing exactly what to look for, and most people miss it. Let me walk you through the signs so you don't. Flip the coin under a good light. Look closely at the date, especially the 1 in 9. If there's any doubling, even the faintest shadow, that's your first clue. Check the edge of the coin. Is the rim perfectly even? Or does one side appear thinner, even slightly warped? That's called an off-center strike. Feel the surface. Most pennies feel smooth, but a struck through error will leave it gritty, scarred, like something was jammed in the machine when it was minted. And last, the holy grail, is a 1985D penny with no copper layer at all. It'll appear dull gray. Lighter than usual. Almost ghost-like. That's the one that changed a man's life. But here's the most important part: never assume your penny is worthless just because it looks normal, because the teacher almost did. He almost gave that coin to his grandson for a school project. But something, a gut feeling, told him to check. To hold it under a magnifier. To trust that tiny voice whispering, "This one's different." That whisper turned into $1 million payday. And you? You could be next, because this coin, this exact penny, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.